Welcome to episode 156 of Timm Talk, the podcast about the DC animated universe, co-created by Bruce Timm. I am Chris Lord.
I'm Cameron Dexter.
And we are picking up with season 4 of Static Shock. A couple good episodes right up at the top, some Batman Beyond, some shebang. And of course, we're going to do our short list from season 3 since we didn't get a chance to last week. But first, what's happened in terms of entertainment news? Cameron, you had a few things you wanted to chat about here.
I did. So there's not a lot of Batman stuff going on. I think we've hit that lull in news at the moment because everything is ramping up to Comic-Con.
Yeah, Comic-Con, also holiday.
Yeah, which is now 3 weeks away. So I have a little bit of Comic-Con news because that's, if this were normal times, that's all I'd be talking about right now.
Yes.
So I'm going to try and keep that the same.
You would be uncontainable, and instead now you're inconsolable.
Exactly. The big floods that have been happening in Huntington are just my tears.
Wait, there are floods happening in Huntington?
Oh yeah, you didn't see that? It's bad.
Like, wait, actual floods? Like water floods?
Yeah, like the ocean is sinking the city.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I've missed this entirely.
But
I should probably look at real news at some point.
It's been pretty. I mean, it's exactly how you'd expect like Californians to handle a flood. You have half the town trying to escape, and the other half is like, how can we surf it?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
But for Comic-Con, we've gotten a little bit of information on how they're going to set up the at-home experience this year. And funny enough, they're actually doing something that we talked about a few weeks ago on the podcast.
Yeah.
They released the map of the floor, so where all the booths are. And basically what they're going to do is that map will be interactive starting the 23rd. And so if you have anything you want to buy, any of the exclusives you want to try and get your hands on, you can open the map and click on the booth for, said company, small shop, artist alley, creator. And they'll lead you straight to their, Comic-Con page.
That's really cool. Like I'm really glad they ended up implementing that because, to your point, I think that is the simplest, cleanest way to navigate that sort of space and not let things just get completely lost. Because otherwise, if you don't have a really clean map like that, it's just going to be gravitating towards the biggest possible vendors and biggest possible like artists.
Right, and I'm sure there'll also be like an alphabetical list somewhere on the side. Which I think they shouldn't do because you should have to deal with the chaos that is the Comic-Con map.
You only want it to be so helpful. You still want a little bit of that holdover of just the madness.
I think that people who have been to Comic-Con and know the floor map should have like a small advantage, because people who've never been, you don't know how complicated the floor is, and it's a linear left to right map. There's nothing crazy about it, but there's just so much to look at. It's so hard to understand, like, okay, well, where is, I'm just trying to get to Marvel. Where is Marvel? It's in the middle, but I don't know where the middle is. Like, I feel like it is a mile-long floor for people who have never been. It is exactly 1 mile from end to end.
It is nuts. Like,
yeah.
But I mean, that is kind of part of the fun of it, though, is just like navigating the space and walking around and like just getting distracted by stuff at booths or amazing costumes or maybe like running into people like yeah, that to me is like the only part I'm gonna miss that, and then I'm just gonna miss all of like the frivolity that happens around San Diego at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's so energetic.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, damn it, now I'm sad.
I don't know, maybe they'll have like, a lot of people have been like poking jokes at how they can bring that experience back in, and like they'll have like, I mean they might even do this just because of the sheer number of people that are going to be trying to access the website. They might have a queue just to get into the floor page.
Yeah,
it's like you would normally have of waiting in line.
I feel like the way they should do it is it should be like queue optional. Like if you're really there to just go in and get something real quick, then it's totally fine. You can just go and buy whatever you want, but you can also like select the queue version, which no matter what you're trying to get into, it makes you wait for an hour, and then it just
Yeah.
randomly like puts you on a Zoom call with two other people in the line, and just you have to either like say nothing and awkwardly not talk, or try and strike up a conversation.
I would love that thing, because it's the joke that people have been saying for airlines for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like there needs to be an option of if I want a silent row or a talkative row.
Yes, yeah,
Uh,
it's like
yeah, like
the new version of smoking, non-smoking,
yeah, have
talking
like a
and non-talking.
checkbox at the top of the website
Oh, I would
that's like,
always opt for the non-talking. I'm like, don't bother. I keep plenty of entertainment on me at all times.
yeah. Oh,
Yes.
same.
Yeah. I've loaded up my iPad with the greatest Martin Scorsese films.
Just Goodfellas.
It's just yes. I really want to experience the way it was meant to be seen.
Yes. On a small screen in the air.
Exactly. When I can't escape.
Yes. But I do like that idea of having like a checkbox in the corner of the landing page. That like as you're kind of moving your cursor through, it's like a window will pop up,
Yeah.
and you'll just see someone have like a really, I don't know how they'd make it safe, but like have a team up with chat roulette.
Mm-hmm. A crossover.
Yeah. Oh god, that'd be so unsafe.
Yeah, now that I think about it, now I don't want it.
Yeah.
Because I think about, like, look, I will say this. I've never had a bad interpersonal experience at Comic-Con. Like, I generally cannot think of a time when I actually had, like, a bad interaction with someone. Like, everyone I've ever interacted with there has been, like, at the worst, just, like, totally fine, and you can just, whatever. And then at the best, like, someone's actually really cool and lovely to talk to, and, like, you make friends and end up, like, hanging out with strangers and, like, stay in contact and stuff. So, like, there's all that, but also it has the added benefit of people having to be like in a very public social space, so they're on their semi-best behavior. I do
I mean,
not expect that to
I've
carry
been
over to the internet.
I've been yelled at a couple times.
I
Uh
for what? What did you get
so
yelled at for?
I think probably the worst interaction I had was like, it's understandable. It was in the Hall HQ. And I was waiting. I don't remember what panel it was, but it was when I was still going with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it was back when like service still wasn't great, but it was like when service was really bad.
Yeah.
And like phones just didn't work at all. So she had come to the side of the queue as I was about to enter the Hall H area, and she was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna go drop everything off at the hotel. Like meet me back there when you're done." Just like
Yeah, like
getting
just
stuff
a
planned
quick
out.
message. Yeah.
And so I said, "Okay," and then I like run to get back to my spot, and some guy sees me, some guy also in line, and just starts berating me of like, this kid, I was young, I was like 14, like, this kid just cut in the line, he hasn't been here the whole time, like, someone get him out of here. And it's like screaming like top of his lungs at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I've been here just as long as you have, actually longer, because I'm actually in front of you. And luckily, like, someone in front of me, like, backed me up. It's like, no, he's been here, like, we've been sitting in the line together for 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with Comic-Con, is that sometimes it brings out unreasonable ire at children.
Yeah.
I do love, though, that as you tell the story, you have in fact become the very thing you once hated. Mr. So mad at a 7-year-old for getting Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern ring.
Yeah, but I didn't do anything to deserve this. That kid asked a question he shouldn't have been allowed to ask. There are rules about this, Chris.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I was 14, I wasn't 7.
Right, yes.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. Somehow your situation is even more unreasonable.
Yes. He had no reason, and I didn't act. I bottled that anger up like an adult.
Like a grown American man.
Like, yeah. I bottled it up and sank it to the bottom of a whiskey bottle.
Yes. To let it come out in unhealthy expressions later on in life.
Yeah. No, that's how it's supposed to be done.
Well, I'm glad Comic-Con can provide you with a facsimile, at least, of your best and worst experiences there when in person. But hey, we're still getting some stuff. We're getting an animated movie that you were super excited about.
We are. So it's a unique crossover of all of our interests.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there's a trailer that came out for a Scooby-Doo direct-to-video movie coming out called Scooby-Doo's Halloween or something like that.
Great news reporting, Cameron.
Yep, nailing it. This is why you usually run the news section.
Yes, I know.
But the reason, besides the fact that it's Scooby-Doo and I'm talking about it, the reason you let me talk about it is the main villain of this movie is going to be Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane.
Yes.
From Batman. So just to list off the few people they've announced for the movie already, is Scooby-Doo is teaming up with Elvira to stop the Scarecrow, while they have Bill Nye coming in as a cameo to kind of play like Q from James Bond.
Yeah, like he shows up and gives them like a brand new like super high-tech mystery machine.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
But I mean, I'm pumped. It's going to be as like trashy and fanboy as it can be, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean it looks generically entertaining. It is a weird intersection of different like characters that I was not expecting. Like when you text me about it, I was like, okay, Scooby-Doo Halloween, but wait, starring Elvira.
Elvira is like making a weird comeback right now.
So I forgot to plug this last week, but I actually watched her first movie, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, from mid to late 80s. I watched it last weekend. It's actually really good. Like I've never really known anything about her like character other than just like that persona exists. But her sense of humor is like super dry and like just like teetering on the edge of inappropriate. Like a lot of stuff she says, like accidental double entendres. It's a really fun, goofy, really charming movie. And made me like instantly fall in love with her. So like I'm kind of excited for her to now be in a Scooby-Doo movie, which I feel like maybe has happened before in the past, although I don't know.
Because I brought the story up to you, but I'll share it with the world. Back in the 60s, my mom used to, they would have, kind of national shows, kind of like I don't think it was Elvira exactly, but it was an Elvira type character that was kind of host a midnight movie marathon. But before that show, a lot of stations would have a local version of it on the side. And my mom worked on one of the local versions. She was the basically like the magician's assistant kind of character.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, in a local version of Elvira. And I found one of the episodes and it was very funny.
Did you find her?
I did.
Oh my god!
And Mom, I'm sorry to say this on the air. You are not an actress.
Well, don't worry, Cindy. I won't put it in the show notes, but Cameron, you must send this to me.
Yes, I will. I'll find it again.
But I have a question for you in regards to this Scooby-Doo movie.
Okay.
So, we seem to be seeing an increasing trend here of Scooby-Doo properties. So, obviously Scoob, which was intended as a theatrical release, and then a lot of their direct-to-DVD stuff capitalizing on other existing IP. Do you feel like maybe Warner Brothers lacks faith in Scooby-Doo as as its own IP, and that's why they're constantly pairing it up with other stuff?
That's a good question.
I mean, because there's always been a history of Scooby-Doo having guest stars going way back to like the Scooby-Doo movies.
The Scooby-Doo movies of the 70s.
Yeah, but it seems like that's like all the Scooby-Doo stuff now has some other element to it outside of just Scooby and the gang.
Let me see, because I remember the last one I remember popping up was when they team up with John Cena.
Further proving my point.
Yes. Happy Halloween, Scoob. I think there are other Scooby-Doo properties that still exist, and they're just kind of overshadowed by the ones that like the ones that have guest stars are just more popular.
I mean, to be fair, there is a whole series called Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. So I'm thinking maybe
they've been consistently putting out 2 animated movies a year since 2012. No, wow, even further back.
How do you not know all of this?
Since 2010, there's been 2 Scooby-Doo direct-to-video movies a year.
Cameron, you're like the Scooby-Doo expert.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Apparently I missed a lot.
I feel like the foundations of your persona are crumbling underneath you as we do this podcast. Like
Look,
you
I've brought this up many a time that I'm not a like I'm not a well-versed Scooby-Doo fan. I'm just a very eccentric Scooby-Doo fan.
you're a very passionate Scooby-Doo fan,
Yes.
as anyone who made it through our Scoob episode would know.
So what is Scooby-Doo and Guest Who? They had Kevin Conroy was on an episode. They
As
had
himself?
Sherlock Holmes. No, as Batman.
Oh. I feel like Kevin Conroy should just get some love as Kevin Conroy.
They have a weird collection. Okay, yeah, these are starting to make sense. So Batman was on, Sherlock Holmes was on, Abraham Lincoln was on, voiced by
Fantastic.
John DiMaggio. That's great.
That is good shout.
And then the as themselves are Jim Gaffigan, Richie Gervais, Whoopi Goldberg, Halsey, the singer, Bill Nye, Chris Paul, Penn and Teller, Sia, George Takei, that one's good.
Yeah.
Wanda Sykes, Keenan Thompson, Neil deGrasse, Weird Al Yankovic, fuck yeah, Steve Buscemi,
Steve Buscemi as himself. What the holy hell? Jeff Foxworthy?
Jeff Dunham, Jeff Foxworthy, Christian Slater, Malcolm McDowell.
Oh my god. Wow. I'm glad to see that Scooby-Doo has still got their finger
Their
on the pulse of
A-team.
pop culture here.
Yeah. That is a wide range.
You know what? I
of
think if we had been
guests.
keeping up with all the Scooby-Doo movies from the the last few years, we would have been less surprised by the really outdated Simon Cowell reference in Scoob.
Yeah,
It would have made
it's
a lot
making
more
little more
sense.
sense. Because these for a time frame, because a lot of these sound like, oh, these episodes probably aired in like 2014 or 2013. No, these are 2019 episodes.
Yep.
These came out last year.
Fresh off the press.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, you know what? You and I will still be here for it. We both love Scooby-Doo.
Oh, and then the other fictional characters. They have Steve Urkel,
Oh god
the
damn it.
Flash, Wonder Woman, Magilla Gorilla, and the Funky Phantom.
Maybe they should just stop.
They shouldn't. Keep going. Never stop.
Never give up, never surrender.
Exactly.
All right. Well, shall we wrap up some news here and move on to our season 3 shortlist?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So from the top, going through season 3, episode 1, Hard as Nails, which was the appearance of Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, and of course Batman and Robin. Cameron, was that a yes or a no for you?
Of course, yes.
Okay, good. It was also yes for me. I was worried I was gonna have to defend myself on this one.
No, that episode's amazing.
Yeah, it is an amazing episode, and also I would say it is. Let's claim it's critical canonically because it verifies that Batman knows who Virgil is and vice versa,
Yeah.
which
That's
comes
fair.
briefly comes into play in the next episode we're going to cover. So,
Mhm.
it's canon. It has to be in there.
I mean, most of these are yeses. This
Yeah.
season is so good.
Episode 2, Gear, introduction of,
Of
Gear.
course. Yeah,
Obviously has to be in there for very, very clear reasons. Episode 3, Static in Africa.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we even said it was the best episode of the series so far. So
Mhm.
clearly it's going to be.
And
in there.
I might still stand by it. I think it is still the best episode we've had.
I would actually think that's fair. That's a fair comment. So I agree with that. All right, episode 4, Shebang.
Yes.
Yes, a necessary episode. Introduction of
Yeah.
Shebang.
I know she's not your favorite character. She's also really not my favorite character, but she does have repeated episodes.
She has enough appearances that you have to include her introductory episode, and I also think it's important for her to be included because, as we'll get to, she's not always given enough credit.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
all right, episode 5, The Usual Suspect. That's the
No.
yeah, that's the one where Virgil suspects that the monster terrorizing the town is this one person. Turns out it's his bitter ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, it's the big bully who just came from juvie.
Yeah, hard pass on that one as well. A League of
Yes.
Their Own, parts 1 and 2.
Yes.
Abso-fucking-lutely must be included. All right, episode 8, Showtime.
No.
I gave that a no as well. Absolutely.
That was the is that AJ and Coolio?
That was the was that
Which
one?
one was Showtime?
No, Showtime was the one where they have the reality TV show.
Oh yeah, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
It introduces the
Bernie Rast.
Yeah,
Who-
but
I do love him as a character, but we can find another way to keep him in with getting rid of this. So that's a hard
Yeah.
pass on Showtime. All right, episode 9, Consequences.
I said yes.
I honestly forget what this episode's about. I'm having to look it up
That's
real
the
quick.
one where
Oh,
Daisy gets a concussion
I'm gonna say
and
no.
falls into a coma. You
Why do
said
you
no?
say yes?
Because I think it's I mean, okay.
Now
I'm
let's
thinking back on it.
let us not forget here, Cameron. You are the stickler when it comes to rules. It either has to be an
I am
exceptional episode or it has to be a canonically critical one. Is this
because canonically,
episode?
I think it does. It should. Here's the problem. I'm thinking of what it should be and what it is,
Yeah, there we go.
and it should have played a bigger part in Virgil's like professionalism as a hero
Or his relationship with Daisy.
or his relationship with Daisy / Frida.
It doesn't really
Yeah,
do either.
you're right. It is a no because it doesn't really change anything from beginning to end.
Nope. Let's cut it out of there. Don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Episode 10, Romeo in the Mix.
Of course,
Yes.
it is the most canonically necessary episode.
I I think it's actually legitimately fun. I think we even said it's the best cameo episode they've had. Considering that you removed Static Shack from the list from the short
Oh, but don't
list.
worry. I think in 2 weeks we're getting the real Static Shack episode,
The one where he's still not in it.
the one where he's definitely in it.
Although wait, hang on. I'm looking back at our old list. I think we included Static Shack in our short list.
Yeah, because I wasn't gonna not let people watch Static Shack.
Are you sure? Because you've turned a corner on that one, and you're
I
very
have, but
anti-Static
people
Shack
need
now.
to understand where I'm coming from.
Cameron, the most significant character arc you've gone through on this podcast was your like undenying love of Static Shack to your
For
absolute
years,
hatred of it.
for years. I think I brought up Static Shack back when we were still on like the animated series.
I'm pretty sure you brought this up on our first episode, but like, can we just skip forward through all of Batman, all of Superman, just to get to Static Shack?
Yes.
I think at the time you would have been satisfied if we'd only done one episode of this podcast and it had been
Yes,
Static
the first
Shack.
Shack cameo in the DCAU.
Yes, the first of so many. But no, we definitely have to include Romeo in the mix. It is a super fun episode. Yeah, it's a great one. All right, number 11, Trouble Squared.
No.
Oh,
I
absolutely
hate
not.
these guys.
One of the worst episodes in the entire series.
This is when Specs and Trapper come back.
Yes. Yeah,
and
it should probably be considered important because it touches on what happened to Edwin Alva, but nothing actually happens of consequence for him or his son throughout the course of that episode. So
yeah, and I think we have one more episode with Alva Jr.
I think okay, yeah. So I'm sure it's gonna matter somewhere down the line, but it doesn't matter here. All right, number 12, Toys in the Hood with
Yes.
Superman and Toyman. Absolutely have to include that. Super fun episode, and also canonically important.
It is.
All right, episode 13.
We learned that he can't manipulate plastic.
Yeah, I mean, we already knew that.
Did we though?
Well, he can sometimes, he can't other times.
Yeah.
It's very unclear. Number 13, The Parent Trap.
No.
I also said no, because I don't think anything happens in that episode that is necessary for the next time we see Shebang, other than Static saying you're welcome to join us anytime. And even then, that could have just been like a throwaway line.
Yeah.
You don't need a whole shit episode to include it. Okay.
Even but Chris, it is we do see a character from the intro. And I think if we don't have this episode, there's gonna be too many questions of who is this random guy who can departicleize a car.
Don't care. Don't care. No.
You don't, but what about the fans?
I really don't think the fans care either, Cameron.
Fine, we'll keep it as a no.
To your criteria, it is not canonically critical. Also,
do you not think the intro is canonical?
I mean, it is, but also I bet a lot of people skip it. I mean, there are monsters for doing so because it's the greatest cartoon intro of all time, considering the theme song.
Mm-hmm.
But no, not canonically critical. Episode 14, Flashback.
Yes.
Well, yeah, obviously. Why'd you say that with such chagrin?
Because it hurts every time I think about it.
I know, but it's such a beautiful episode.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely need to include that one. And then, of course, episode 15, Blast from the Past.
Absolutely.
Yes, I also gave that a yes. Super fun episode. We really wish there was more soul power over the course of the DCAU.
And it's canonical in this episode.
That's true, it is. This might be the first time you and I have basically agreed on everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy to when every episode is there's no like meh episodes of this season. They're all just either really good or just like
Bad.
bad.
Just flat out bad.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So that being said, the season 3 shortlist, which is actually pretty long, all things considered, is Hard as Nails, Gear, Static in Africa, Shebang, A League of Their Own, parts 1 and 2, Romeo in the Mix, Toys in the Hood, Flashback, and Blast from the Past, giving us 10 of the 15 episodes.
I think that's our most positive list. So I mean, maybe New Batman was pretty positive.
Yeah, I've kept track of some of them, not all of them. Yes, a New Batman Adventures, we had 12.
Of how many?
I don't remember.
15? 16?
I don't remember. I think I will double check on this and report next week, but I'm pretty sure up to this point, that might be the most episodes of a single season we've included on something. Although I'm looking back at this, Batman Beyond Season 2 had 11 episodes, which is pretty long on our list. So, I don't know. We'll check back in.
Wow, I must have been a real stickler for New Batman Adventures.
I think it was you being a real stickler and me fighting super hard for some things. Like, for example, Terry's friend dates a robot and the Egg Baby are both on there. So I'm pretty sure that was me fighting really hard for episodes that I thought were really fun.
Yeah, probably.
Further cementing my status as the villain of the podcast. All right, well, since we're done with season 3 now, why don't we mosey on to season 4 here, starting off with Future Shock.
I just before we get started with this, we have entered the final season of Static.
Indeed, we have.
And I got a little emotional when I started watching these episodes because I'm like, I've been looking forward to this show for 3 years.
Yeah,
getting ready on this podcast.
I know.
And we're coming to the finish line.
We are getting close. We're getting very, very close here. But, I'm looking forward at the episodes we have. There's some damn good stuff.
Honestly, I think every episode this season is a banger.
Yeah, I mean, we got coming up here. So even just next week is going to be Out of Africa, the return of Anansi. We're also going to get the Green Lantern episode.
Yep.
We got another episode with Edwin Alva coming up. The Hoop Squad episode.
Shaq Part 2.
Yep. Oh, but guess what, Cameron? There's an episode with the return of Specs and Trapper.
Son of a bitch.
And it's called Where the Rubber Meets the Road, which makes me think it's probably a Rubber Band Man episode.
Oh, is that yes, no, that's a good episode. That's the dyslexia episode.
It's a good episode despite the inclusion of Specs and Trapper.
Yeah, because it's like a good Rubber Band Man episode.
Okay. All right. But there's some good stuff coming up here. I think it's going to be a pretty damn good season for us. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think it starts out pretty damn strong here. I mean, we've seen over the course of almost the entire series. So of the 4 season premieres, excluding the original one, everyone has included a crossover, a Batman crossover specifically. So they're clearly trying to use that to push forward their opening numbers here. But this time around, it's Static, Batman, and Robin capture a villain named Timecode who is offering to send criminals into the future. And while analyzing his device in the Batcave, Static accidentally gets sent into the future of Batman Beyond, where he teams up with Terry to save his future self from the villainous Cobra.
I love Timecode's concept.
It is a good idea. I kind of wish we got more from him, actually.
Yeah, I tried to see if he was in anything else, and not really. He's kind of similar to, I think his name is Time Freak. Who's the time villain from Teen Titans?
I don't remember.
Kronos?
No, because Kronos is the villain from Justice League Unlimited, the once in future thing.
Warp. His name is just Warp.
But no, like it's an interesting idea with Timecode. I feel like maybe he is that alone, though. It's just an interesting idea. Like, I don't know if an episode, I don't know. I mean, do you think there's an interesting episode to be made about them traveling through time to try and like bring villains back to
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think not into the future, but if you made like I don't know if it would fit the comedy of any of the DCAU, but if you had like that idea for Teen Titans or Teen Titans Go, I think would fit it best. We have like Joker flung to the Renaissance, messing up all the paintings.
Okay, yeah, I think I see what you mean. Maybe a show that has more whimsy and could do some more
You
meta.
need something where it can have like a musical number attached to this. Not a musical number, sorry, like a fun pop montage attached to this sequence.
I think. Are you just basically thinking of the time travel sequence from Teen Titans Go to the movies?
Potentially, but now with the Batman's Rogues Gallery. Because I am thinking of like a great scene where Joker just has a paintbrush and just painting over he's just like going through Da Vinci's workshop and just painting on top of everything.
Cameron, now you're just thinking of the museum sequence from the '89 Batman movie.
No, because it's animated, and I'm trying to think where the other villains can go.
Cameron, are you sure you're not just thinking of a live action movie and in your head animating it because you see the world in animation?
I do. I very much do. I'm thinking of Time Squad.
Yes.
And just how can we shoehorn in? Because what other villains you can have? Control Freak jumping back to like the early 90s and being very angry because like everything takes so much longer.
Wait, which one's Control Freak?
Control Freak is the he's the Teen Titans villain.
Stop. Okay, hang on. How would you make this work in the DCAU? You can't just keep pulling Teen Titans villains.
Fine.
This is not yet Titans talk.
You're right.
The inevitable spinoff. Are there any? Okay, so you have an episode built around time zone. So either they're chasing him through time, or they have to go and retrieve someone he has sent into the future. So even of those two premises, which one do you seems more interesting?
Okay. Here's my pitch for you, Chris.
Okay. Is it a two-parter?
Of course it's a two-parter. Not only is it a two-parter, it is based off of one of your favorite sequels.
Okay.
We have a mobster Back to the Future Part 2 episode.
Okay.
Where one of the villains, it can be like Falcone, Alva, any one of the, I mean, you can throw in any villain here.
Specs and Trapper
they get a hold of Time Code's ability, go into the past, change it, and as kind of like Batman and Static kind of jump in the portal, they're in the time bubble where they remember their reality but are instantly snapped to the branch reality, the Biff reality.
So
where now Specs and Trapper rule Dakota City.
I am God, what a horrifying thought. I am gonna stop you there because we already had an episode where they go back in time.
I know. I just remembered that.
And we've established, at least within the Static Shock rules of time travel, that it is like the predestination version of time travel where they always
maybe
went back in time.
Maybe that was only her power. Maybe that was only her version of time travel.
So I think that the difference here is it has to be an episode where they leap forward into the future to differentiate a little bit, right? Okay. That's his whole point. Is I think and this is obviously they created this character of Time Code just to justify doing a Batman Beyond crossover. Power to them. But I would also argue that they want to do this to differentiate it from going to the past, which they've already done, right? And I also think that the in-universe logic is that you could send someone into the future and it wouldn't change reality up till now.
Yeah. And I guess going back to your point of like everything is already set, everything is predestined in time.
Yeah.
Because you have present static meeting future static.
And he's like cool as a fucking cucumber about it. Probably because he already knows this is going to happen because he's already remembered it.
But that also means Gear's inevitably going to become fat, which is pretty sad.
I think we already knew that was going to happen, though.
Did we, though?
Have we seen Richie's diet habits over the course of this show?
Yeah, but that's every cartoon character from the early 2000s.
Yeah, but this
You
is
either
finally a
only
realistic
ate
portrayal
junk
of what
food
happens.
or you were a vegetarian, i.e. Sam and Tucker from Danny Phantom.
Of course. No, like this...
Or Ron from Kim Possible.
Is he a vegetarian?
No, but he only eats trash. He eats the Nako.
Oh, that's right. He always eats the Nako. But do we
From
see a
Bueno
future
Nacho.
version of him where he's super fat?
No, because their version of time travel is not set in stone, because you have A Stitch in Time, which is an amazing 3-part episode. Not a decom, as I found out recently. Stitch in Time, not a decom. It's a 3-part episode. They bundled up as a movie. They played in a decom time slot.
Wait, so Cameron, hang on. Over the course of this episode, you've revealed that you had a misunderstanding of Scooby-Doo lore.
Yep.
A misunderstanding of Kim Possible lore. And I seem to recall you also had trouble remembering some specific elements of a Teen Titans episode. Are you sure you're okay?
What did I not understand about a Teen Titans episode?
I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Hold on. I was pinpoint accurate. Let me double check. That was episode 2. Hold on. Teen Titans episodes.
All I'm saying is I'm a little worried about you.
I'm off my game right now.
Clearly.
It's the first episode of season 2. God damn it. How long is forever? Oh, man. Because she's trying to celebrate, Flocknar.
So, further proving my point, are you doing okay?
No. Blorthog is the holiday, is the friendship holiday.
All right. Also, I love that we could basically do a whole spin-off podcast just talking about the different versions of time travel established in all the different forms of kids cartoons that exist. Like,
yes,
you could do a whole podcast just on the one-off episodes of kids cartoons that involve time travel and shows that otherwise not about time travel.
I weirdly don't think that Kids Next Door ever had a time travel episode.
Well, we'll double check that off air.
Yeah.
Lest we keep getting distracted.
Okay, yeah, we'll actually talk about Future Shock now, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so, but I actually, I think that they under-capitalized on the idea of time code, but like I said, I don't think he was ever be more than just an idea. But, I mean, it's a pretty good excuse to, fling him into the future.
Yeah.
And, I thought they did a pretty good job of, making him understand, a bit of a fish out of water situation, also making Terry very distrusting of him.
Terry was so mean this episode.
It's kind of interesting because it actually really subverts the typical Terry Bruce dynamic, because Bruce is normally the one who's very cautious and suspicious, and Terry's the one who's a little more willing to be open-minded and trust someone or something that maybe they shouldn't. Whereas this time around, it's, Bruce obviously has a trust of Static because he's known him for 40 plus years at this point, and he knew this event was going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, Terry's kind of a dick, but also maybe not entirely unjustified in being frustrated by this kid following him around, because he's never had a sidekick.
I think it's interesting going from Robin, who's hinting at the idea that Bruce is a dick,
Yeah.
to Terry, who's just immediately hardened.
Yeah.
It's oh, this is the future. Oh, this makes sense. This is what Robin turns into.
Well, and I guess it also makes sense too, because Bruce at that point is so much worse, essentially, than he is, at this point so far in the DCAU. I mean, even where he ends in Justice League Unlimited, you have to imagine that beyond what we see over the course of the series, there's other things that really harden him even further. And I suppose you could say that the events,
making him sing on stage.
What?
Making him sing on stage.
Yes, exactly.
That can ruin any good man.
That's true. That would ruin anybody. But he's even more hardened and bitter, and so as a result, I think that affects Terry. And I also think Terry just comes in from a more cynical place too than either Dick or Tim or even Barbara.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, they don't necessarily trust each other. And it's interesting because there's almost this idea running through the episode about mentorship a little bit. It's Static makes a comment to Robin about how lucky he is to have Batman there to be a mentor and a guide, and how much he wishes he had one.
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like they didn't really do anything with that idea. They didn't really feel like there was ever any like character arc built into it, or even a button on that concept to really give it a payoff.
Yeah, I did. I absolutely loved the moment where Terry uses the headset to talk to Bruce and Static wires himself in.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
But no, that is a good point. Like, I guess like Static seeing his future self was supposed to be the button of like that's his mentor is himself.
I guess, yeah, and I guess even
But
like
I also like thinking on this episode. This was my first time seeing Batman Beyond.
oh, that's right. 'Cause you didn't watch it
back
when
in
it
the day.
aired.
I didn't. So this was my very first experience to Terry.
Do you
And
do you remember that experience? Like, what was your thought?
I honestly didn't remember much about Terry. I just remembered Future Static, and I thought that he played a much bigger part of the episode, not 45 seconds.
I think you were also thinking of his appearance in. I'm pretty sure the episode's called "The Once and Future Thing."
Yes, just JLU.
The JLU, because I was also thinking about that because I remember the old version of Static. I remember as like old Static.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting to see.
No, because I remember this one because it's him it's him coming out of the bubble.
Yeah, when he's like
I remember
he's like full Daddy Static mode.
Yeah.
Oh.
Have we talked about Dream Daddy? Do you know that game?
Do I want to?
Yes, you do, because I think it's a game right up your alley. It's so dumb and it's so funny. You are a single dad that just moved into a new neighborhood, and you are trying to hook up with all of the other dads.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
I think I have heard about this because it kind of sounds familiar, but I clearly have not explored this enough.
Yeah, there's a genre that I don't think it really taken off in America at all, which are dating simulators, which are huge in Japan.
Yeah,
and it's a daddy dating simulator. So you have like your harem of other dads that you meet through like your kid's school, and you get to pick which one you want to court.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah.
How have I not played this?
I accidentally brought it up on a brainstorm meeting a few weeks ago. Because I'm working with a gaming company right now to help with their social campaigns, and they're like, oh yeah, what are some like games we can focus on for this idea? And I'm like, oh, we can like bring in Dream Daddy, and like the what? And I'm like, oh no, I have to explain this professionally.
I'm so proud of you, Cameron.
Yep. It's amazing I still have a job.
Did you what did you say when you explained it?
Oh, pretty much just that it's a dating simulator where you're a daddy trying to get other daddies.
But I'm definitely have to go play this game. But what I was gonna say is, Daddy Static totally working for me.
Oh yeah,
yes. And, if you got like Phil Lamar and like full on like macho gruff voice going on too, I'm just like, yes, everything about this. And I think part of the reason I was particularly into it was because I was expecting the really old version. I was expecting like Gramps Static from the Once and Future Thing.
Yeah, so he would be 55.
Yeah,
in this version, yeah,
55. Yeah, he's looking good. He's looking very good for 55. Let me just say.
Yeah.
Also, a character that clearly a lot of rough shit happens between this and the next time we see him in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like something bad happens to him because he has aged a lot in that period of time. But yeah, Daddy Static totally working for me. But yeah, I guess like his last line was something along the lines of like, just do what you're doing and believe in yourself, more or less. So
Yeah.
I guess that was the overall arc there. It just felt like
it's like you don't need a mentor, like you're doing fine on your own.
Yeah, it just felt maybe a little bit underbaked for what I think could have been
I agree.
An interesting idea.
Oh, I was gonna say I loved Static asking Terry like, oh, where's everyone else? Like, who else can we get to help us with this?
Oh yeah.
When he said Robin's a civilian, the League is off near Alpha Centauri, which I want to bring this up. It is not hard. Alpha Centauri is far for us as humans in this reality.
Yes.
But for the Justice League, who constantly span to the other side of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Green Lantern specifically goes to multiple galaxies, within a day.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back from Alpha Centauri is probably like what, an hour, 2 hour ride. Who
True.
knows how fast space travel would even be back then or in that future?
True. But maybe, maybe they're not paying attention to comms. Maybe they're in the middle of like some insane humanitarian crisis.
Would it still be a humanitarian crisis if there's no humans?
Fuck off. You pedantic.
I'm just saying that saying they're on Alpha Centauri doesn't mean anything. Because that's like saying they're, stuck in traffic.
All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and like send a tweet to Stan Berkowitz, the writer of this, and let him know your thoughts on Alpha
I
Centauri
will.
geography.
I'm going to ask him, sir, how long does it take for the delete to get from Earth to Alpha Centauri?
I love that we got a chance to see the future version of the gas station.
Yeah, that was great.
They got like a full on upgrade. I also love.
Yeah, and who is Terry to like Terry again being just an asshole this episode, like putting him down for their hideout being in a gas station. Like, I'm sorry, Terry, what would you be doing if you didn't have the mansion?
Yeah, it's not even his mansion.
Yeah.
He's just a freeloader
Yeah, you live in an apartment.
with your mom.
Yeah, at least Virgil has a house.
Yeah.
I say here sitting in my apartment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, it's like it was fun to see like what the future holds for them.
Okay, so here's my thing. So you have the idea of the future set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
Is it now Virgil's comment that Richie needs to watch his weight that puts him in this spiral of trying so many fad diets, fearing his future self that causes him to turn into Fat Richie?
I think it is.
Is this now future Batman's fault?
It is. Yeah. Static comes back and causes Richie to get fat.
Yeah. Wow. What a bad friend.
Yeah. Because Virgil makes him aware and now insecure about his eating habits.
Yeah. And what do you do when you're sad about your eating habits? You probably just eat more.
You just eat more and more.
That's what I do.
Also, and I know this is bad. In my headcanon, this version of Richie never gets a chance to come out, and that's why he's like so fat and sad in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the saddest possible option. But yeah, that's my reason.
I mean, this is 2002 future, so
yeah,
you're not too off.
No, I don't think it ever happens. Sadly, I did love they had a run in with the Jokers. Just because one, it's always fun to see them, and two, I love the Jokers actually were using a giant anvil as a weapon.
Yeah,
I love they found a way to get that in there. That was a
fun fight. Yeah, the anvil. You have the acid pie.
Mm-hmm.
You had those weird inventions that look just like gears springs.
Yeah, they're almost Toyman-esque because they were like,
yeah,
they were kind of like not quite slinkies. If they were Toyman weapons, they absolutely would be. But yeah, they're just like metal coils that you throw on someone and they just continuously like contract themselves around a person.
Did we see Toyman in the future?
No.
I feel like he would be a great like we mentioned the Jokers being, the subordinates of Joker.
Mm-hmm.
I would love like an army of Toyman supporters.
Do you think Toyman ever got enough like cultural awareness to warrant a bunch of henchmen? Because like,
well, I mean, we know what they would be. They'd be our current incels.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, the future version is like there's like an in between Toyman where it becomes a game designer.
Yes.
And then you have all these kids coming up. It's like, you don't understand the real meaning of this game. Like, only we get this game.
Actually, I think you're right. I think there is a Toyman gang in the future in Metropolis. We just never get a chance to see them because they're all working from a basement somewhere on their computers, and their whole thing is just
arcade.
Yeah, they're just trolls.
Yeah,
they never build anything. They never do anything. They're just constantly trolling people everywhere.
Yeah, just talking about how mad they are at everything.
They're out there on fan boards complaining about how much they hate like Defenders of the Cosmos or whatever the in-universe Star Wars movie was from Batman Beyond. I also think this episode may have given us the best yet pop culture reference when Static says, "Who do you think it was?" Beyonce, but he doesn't say Beyonce. He says Beyonce.
Yeah. Oh no, and then the Terry follows along with it.
Yeah,
Says, "You know him?" He says his name is Beyonce.
yeah,
I loved that line.
yeah. But I mean, we haven't even talked about Cobra, but their whole thing is pretty minimal. It's like they're just basically doing a prison exchange between Static and the leader of the Cobra gang. It's like the villain plot here is pretty minimal. It's mostly just there as a justification to kind of put these characters together. But I'm glad they did this episode though. It was fun. I don't think it's quite as strong as the Once and Future Thing, which I also think is two of like the best episodes of JLU.
Yeah, and I also don't think it's as strong as Hard as Nails, which I think was the better.
Yeah.
I think it's the best crossover we get.
Yeah, and that has the added benefit of Harley and Ivy, who are just two really fantastic, charismatic villains. All right, should we talk about Shabak?
Let's do it. What a weird episode name.
Maybe one of the best episodes names?
No.
I mean, I love it because it's a pun, but also I hate it.
Is it a pun? How is it a pun?
It's not.
Explain to
Shebang
me
is
what-
Shabak.
That's not a pun.
Yeah, it is. It's wordplay.
I don't think that's replacing one word with another word.
It's wordplay,
You're not
Cameron.
like thinking it's the other word.
It's a pun.
I will not consider this a pun.
Yes, it
I
is.
consider this lazy wordplay.
Because if in the episode, and I'm sad no one did this, if in the episode someone went, "Oh my god, it's Shebang," yeah, she's Shabak, then it would have been a pun.
Then name the title She's Shabak.
We fixed it.
Yes.
Look, I'm not disagreeing that it's lazy wordplay. It is lazy wordplay, but I love it, and also it's still a pun. But I mean, actually, maybe the episode should have been called "They Back," because it also sees return of Madeline Spaulding, who at one point could control people's brains with telepathy. Now she has telekinesis and wants revenge on Static. But she returns along with Shebang, who is no longer on the run and wants to finally live her most authentic life. But the appearance of both of them causes friction in their respective groups, the Metabreed and the Dakota Duo / maybe now the Dakota Trio.
Yeah. It's really, and we hinted at this at the top of the episode. It's a really shitty episode for Shebang.
Yeah.
Because she realizes, like, now that she gets to be her authentic self, that people don't like her authentic self.
And I think there is an interesting idea to explore there, right? Like, this is a girl who has been, due to outside circumstances, like forcibly separated from people, especially her own peers. It makes sense she wouldn't know how to behave around other teenagers. It also makes sense that she, like, being kind of like genetically enhanced, would be like smarter, more capable, and she has a lot of self-confidence. And you can see where she would have to learn how to be all of those things still without causing an unnecessary amount of friction with other teenagers. But they do a really shitty job because everyone just hates her.
Yeah, she's too outgoing.
And they don't really resolve it. It's like, so she shows up and she like saves Static, and then she goes front and center in front of a news camera, talking about how now she's part of the team, and that puts Static and Gear on edge. But then she also gets overly involved in planning the the homecoming dance or something like that. And so Frida and Daisy /Frida /Daisy just basically tell her she's not welcome anymore. And they never bring that back around. Like, she is totally ostracized by both her hero peers and by her friends, and only one of those two things is resolved, and only in a really lackluster way.
Yeah.
Like, this episode ends and she still doesn't have friends.
Right, and we never see her again after this.
I know, it's really
I think that's the most like disheartening part of it all. Is like, we know it will never get resolved.
And I think that's like the frustrating thing about Shebang as a character, is there's so much potential there to have her be the third member of this team, and every time she appears, they like tease at that possibility, and then they never really do anything with it.
You know what she should do? fuck Static and Gear, go team up with Rubber Band Man.
I agree with you. I think she and Rubber Band Man should become the new Dakota duo. Rubber Band Man, as established, the best superhero in all of Dakota / possibly the entire DCAU.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they actually would be a really good pairing.
Yeah, because she's like a super gymnast, and I'm just imagining him just being her trampoline.
Oh my god! Think about how far she could go.
Yeah, she could fly.
Yeah, that's true. He could stress out. She could bounce off of him, fly super super far, and then he could roll down the street and then reappear and let her bounce again. And
it would be like the circus, the perfect circus performance turned heroes.
Yeah, they can do both. They can put on a show while fighting crime.
Yeah. Take over as the Flying Graysons. Or sorry, take over the Flying Graysons act.
Yeah, I was saying, maybe skip the name. I think that name might just be a little bit tainted at this point.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like naming a ship the Titanic, too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It just means it's big and grandiose. It's about to make James Cameron a bunch of money.
Exactly, yes.
I'm surprised James Cameron doesn't name all his ships the Titanic.
For all we know, he may have. Okay, wait. I have nothing to back this up, but I really hope that James Cameron has a submarine named the Titanic, because he is obviously very well known for his deep sea exploration and conservation.
Let me see if
and that would be actually brilliant to have a ship that is deliberately supposed to sink called the Titanic.
Yeah, his one is called the Deep Sea Challenger.
That's so boring. Come on, James Cameron,
Yeah.
you come up with better than that.
Yeah, come on, don't give us a space reference.
Yeah, God.
We want your financial success reference.
Also, to be fair, and this might be a little tone deaf, but I feel like also naming things a Challenger is maybe not the best idea.
Maybe because
for the same reasons.
Maybe because they both went down.
Yeah, the same reasons you don't name things the Titanic. Like one out of just reverence. It's you kind of retire the name. But two, maybe you don't want that association.
Yeah.
There. Starting to question you, James Cameron, and your choices. But no, what I found. Okay, so what I liked about this episode was I did like the Madeline was back. I liked that she had new powers, and the in-universe explanation Richie got from a comic book where he's explaining that one of their favorite superheroes all of a sudden has new powers. Particle Man. Also love that comic was a Soul Power comic.
Yeah, it's the same one that he was reading in the Soul Power episode.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Save money on the animation. But also because we talked about this at length, the more Soul Power we get in this universe, the better.
Yeah.
So, man, just make that Soul Power movie.
So here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we see Madeline breaks out the Metabreed, parts of the Metabreed, no Shiv.
Yeah.
It's Hot Streak, Talon, and Ebon.
Mm-hmm.
And in the final fight scene, it's 3 1-on-1 fights.
Yeah.
Would there have been better villains to have a 1-on-1 fight with for these characters?
Yes, Carmandillo 3 times.
Yes, 3 Carmandillos, absolutely. We have Static fighting Madeline. I think that one has to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Who would be? Because I mean, Talon versus Shebang is fine, but I feel like there's a better fight that could happen.
Who would you substitute out there instead?
My first thought was Kangor.
Okay.
Just her whole thing is
oh, okay. Yeah.
Is bouncing off surfaces.
There's a similar athleticism there that could make it interesting.
And then I just had this very fun gag in mind of Gear fighting Shiv.
Actually, yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Where Shiv pulls out one weapon and Gear pulls out a slightly bigger weapon, and you just have this Looney Tunes standoff where Shiv keeps making something bigger come out of his hand until finally it's too heavy and that's what crushes him.
I'm 100% on board with you on this. They should have done it missed opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like Shiv and Gear are so, because they're so opposite each other, but while also being inventors.
And they kind of play a similar role within their own group dynamics. I mean, obviously, Gear's a genius, and Shiv is, a moron
Yeah.
at,
Yeah, exactly.
at best. But they also are kind of like the respective comic relief, sort of each of their teams. So like they're both
Mhm.
like the jokesters of each of their teams. I think there could have been something there about them, just like to your point, like being in a Looney Tunes style standoff that would have tonally worked for both those characters. That could have been kind of fun.
Or maybe like having Shebang fight Puff
But you have to
would
have
be
Puff and
interesting.
Onyx.
What?
You have to have Puff and Onyx.
I mean, Honest can be in a different holding cell, and
I,
they only broke out the people in that one block.
I guess. I mean, I was okay with it being Talon. I like Talon a lot as a villain.
I do. I really enjoy Talon. I feel like she gets the most attention of the kind of B tier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one that's a good thing because, as we've established, this show struggles with having enough female characters.
Yeah.
It's a little on the nose that you have like the two female characters fighting each other.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, do we bring in someone else?
Yeah, which I guess I feel like that idea being a little bit tone deaf was at least partially undercut by having Static going up against Madeline. So it
Mhm.
wasn't just like a very clear like, oh, like only you can only fight along the same gender lines. But also that fight makes sense because it's like the lead villain versus the lead hero.
Right.
I like Talon. I mean, I did think it was kind of funny that ultimately she's bested by a tire because
Yeah.
like Shebang just knocks over a stack of tires in the junkyard, and one conveniently happens to wrap around Talon. I don't know. It kind of worked. But like, I, I liked that Madeline was here. I thought it was interesting. She had
We also have
a
H2 Olga. If we
what?
need more female villains. I'm trying to think of the other female villains we have.
Okay.
We have H2 Olga.
We
No, sorry, Aquamarine. Aquamarina.
yeah,
Damn it.
we haven't even gotten to Aquamarina yet.
Have we not?
I mean, I know she's coming up in this season in one of the episodes, but I feel like she hadn't yet been a villain so far.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, I just assumed we'd already seen her.
Come on, Cameron, man, you're
We talk about her so much.
you talk about her so much because it's such a quick
Don't put this all on me.
segue.
We're
It's
a
such a quick
team here,
segue into
Chris.
H2 Olga. That's why you bring her up all the time.
So Danny Phantom.
You don't even want to talk about Aquamaria.
That's true.
Yeah, but no, like I did think it's interesting that Madeline's new costume is basically just like Sally's look from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't know. That felt a little bit weird and lazy, and I'm not quite sure where that was coming from. But there's some interesting stuff in here. Like it's interesting to see Ebon being challenged in his authority by Madeline. I just feel like this episode had pretty shitty messaging.
Yeah.
Like, because Madeline is an interesting character because she is super powerful, but she's also really arrogant. And as we've seen from her last appearance, she wants things done her way. And that goes at odds against Ebon, who is dismissive of her essentially because she's just like an annoying teenage girl. And there could have been some good room to have that be a, like a mirror relationship to what was going on with Shebang and Static. And you could see them maybe trying to do it. But because they so thoroughly botched the storyline with Shebang of having everyone hate her for being so overbearing, but then not really ever addressing that. Like the thing that upset me most with this episode is that Gear and Static never apologize.
Right.
They never apologize. They never, not only do they not apologize, but they don't even have a moment where say like they're at school and, Virgil maybe makes a comment when they're planning for the dance, like, hey, like actually I think, Shanice had a really good idea. Why don't we go ahead and do that? And when he kind of gets, a look from Frida and Daisy, he pushes back a little bit to kind of like defend her. Like, I feel like that sort of moment would have been really necessary because otherwise she's just treated the entire episode as this like overbearing girl. And then everyone is justified in their frustration with it. And then she's the one who has to apologize in the end for being overbearing. I'm like,
Right.
this is maybe not the right way to go with this.
Yeah, I definitely see like yeah, like exactly like you mentioned, like the parallels they attempted because maybe I don't know how you do it because they're not really the same character enough to have that parallel unless you have like Shebang joined the meta breed, which would just feel very tonally wrong.
Yeah, and I
And
think
then see that like the fighting there is the exact same fighting that happened between her and Static.
I mean, what I feel like happened here, and I'm just making assumptions based on maybe what the writing methodology here was, but I feel like they wanted to bring Shebang back. They wanted her to be a source of conflict within that trio. They maybe wanted to come up with a reason why she wasn't going to be there. And so they're like, okay, well, she finally gets to be herself. So maybe her personality is just like comes on a little bit strong. And then they realize, oh, hey, we had another character like this in Madeline Spaulding. Why don't we go ahead and bring her back and have her be, a reflection of what Shebang is going through? I feel like that was the thinking in that process. And I feel like you could almost keep everything that happens with Madeline the same. I think all it took, and Shebang still does learn that maybe she was just coming on like a little bit strong, which is fine because that's a lesson she would eventually have to learn anyways, and that's part of her reintegration into a normal life. That arc totally makes sense. I think literally all you needed to do was have one more scene where Static and Gear also apologize for not being welcoming and supportive, and even acknowledge that, hey, like, we get like we totally didn't think about the fact like you're not used to being a normal teenager, and like we should have been more supportive. Like, we're the only ones who know your story. We should have been standing up for you rather than pushing you away. And even
Yeah.
just having that conversation would almost kind of set up the idea that going forward they're probably going to help defend Shanice with the other teenagers as well. And I feel like that would have resolved this in a way that would have made it feel a little bit less like obtuse and like passively misogynist.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it can be as easy as the last shot is them all having lunch in school. Shanice kind of looking around for a table. She sees the group, the homecoming table,
Yeah.
and she starts walking the other way. And Static or Virgil's like, "Hey, no, come on, we can make room."
Yeah.
And then they go and sit, and then they all just kind of you pan out as they all just kind of start talking into nonsense.
Yeah. It just needed like a button to make the message land.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what this sort of reminds me of, and we talked about it last week, was that that video, and I had the name wrong. It was the adorkable misogyny of the Big Bang Theory, not the subtle misogyny. Because I was messaging with Ashley Clark, and she made a comment about how that show is not subtle at all. It's misogyny, and she's 100% right.
I think I was the one that said subtle because that was just the first word that popped in my head.
Yeah, exactly. But like it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. It's kind of a similar story here. I mean, it's nowhere near as problematic because that episode is basically about like unwanted sexual advances, and it's ultimately the female character that has to apologize for it. But it's similar here. That this episode kind of reminded me of that just a little bit, which is a shame.
Yeah, and it's very much a shame that that's how we're left with Shebang and Shanice.
I mean, would you have wanted her to become like a full team member and have her be in like a handful more episodes throughout the rest of the season?
Have her be the rubber band man, where she isn't like maybe she even at the end she's like, I'm so glad you guys let me back on the team, but I realized that I need to do this by myself for a little bit. And let her be an independent hero for like accept their apology. Be like, thank you, but I feel like I should be doing kind of my own thing right now. And then they kind of bring her in. They're all still in school together. Maybe she even gets a job at the community center.
Yeah.
So we can see like Shanice a little bit more. And then she comes in for like team up episodes.
Yeah. It's really disappointing because I feel like every episode she's been in, all three of them, there's the potential there they never fully capitalize on.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's really quite a shame because I think there is a really interesting character and interesting dynamic there, but they just didn't. They didn't go, and I don't know if maybe because this show is so focused on particularly the friendship between Static and Richie, like that's kind of the most consistent thing around which the show is built. I guess if you think about even when we had the new Batman Adventures, you were able to kind of treat it more like a revolving cast of heroes because we'd already spent so much time with Batman. It wasn't like
Yeah.
you had to keep doing Batman episodes. It was like it was a change of pace to be doing episodes on the other heroes. And I feel like maybe here, this show much more hangs on Static and by extension Gear that maybe just they never felt like there was room to bring in a third hero.
I just thought about like if we got an episode where it was just Gear and Shanice or just Gear and Shebang. Like I wouldn't want this to like be a bad portrayal of Gear, but it's like the two of them doing a patrol together, and she'd be like, "Oh, Gear, like where should we go next?" He's like, "Oh, I never decided where we went next.
I never called the
Like,
shots.
Yeah, Virgil always said we were going next.
Call out Virgil for being the actual overbearing one of this
Yeah,
group.
I think that would have been like a very funny dynamic. I don't know if you can get a full episode out of that,
but a
that would have
moment,
been
certainly.
Yeah, it's like a one beat joke.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's no, it's a little disappointing overall. But did you have other thoughts on she back / they back?
They back?
They back / hey, she's back.
Hey, it's her again. Both of them. No, that's pretty much it.
All right, cool. Well, got a few quick notes from friends here since we skipped it last week. So just a couple things. One, we got a message from good old Sam Gash of the Ideal Remake podcast, also a friend of ours. And he starts off with, "Hey, I just want to say that Cameron is 100% right. Right from the beginning.
Great.
Right from the
Done.
beginning."
Thanks, guys. That's all we need.
Right from the beginning, Sam. I have questions. I have concerns about your notes here. But he says Flora's Lava is trash, but it's the sort of trash that's fun to watch with other people or in a Netflix party. Watching it alone seems like it would be torture. And he said that for him, JD from Scrubs is probably the most aspirational character that he saw on TV that wasn't like a superhero. But as he points out, he's a cis white dude, so he's had the benefit of default. And I agree with those things. You and I both made a similar acknowledgement last week when we were talking about characters that represent us on screen. But like we said last week, I think it's the specificity that matters, right? And I think specificity when it comes to terms of like race and gender and sexuality is critically important. We're seeing more of that. But even then, like we're all different people, and we still want to see a character on screen that feels like us, and that's an incredibly powerful thing. So Sam, I'm very happy you had someone that you found.
Yeah, with JD, I think there's also a really interesting thing about that because for me, it was kind of the first character that showed me that two guys can have like a touchy-feely relationship.
Oh, they can be like emotionally vulnerable with each other.
Yeah. And that was like a big part of my high school. It was like there's scenes where JD will ride on Turk's back across the hospital, and like that's exactly what we did in high school. It was like we had a game called Backpack where you jump on someone's back and tell them what class to take you to, and you just would. That's just how it worked.
Yeah. No, that's a good point actually. Yeah, like because they had like a really like warm, meaningful, soft friendship. And one of the episodes I remember most, one of my favorite episodes was I can't remember what the rest of the episode's about, but there's a moment where it's Turk is doing extra shifts in the ambulance to make extra money, and JD's upset because like they're not hanging out as much. And JD comes to the realization that like the reason Turk is doing it is because he now sees him and Carla as a we. And it's like that moment of him recognizing that, Turk now has someone else in his life who has, that relationship is as important and in many ways more so important than their own. And his like acceptance of that. I thought it was like a really like touching, meaningful thing.
Yeah.
No, it's a great show. Have you listened to the podcast they're doing?
I have not.
I kind of want to go check it out at some point. I was never the biggest Scrubs fan, but I would watch episodes here and there and really liked it. But those two guys are so funny, and the fact they're like best friends in real life is just delightful. It's just what you want out of the world. But so Sam also wrote in along with someone on YouTube, Straw Hat Prime, to tell us that 2 weeks ago we were trying to remember a villain that like just disappeared through the ground, and we couldn't remember who it was. And it was the Ian Peake from Batman Beyond, the guy who used like the intangibility.
That's right.
To like spy on people.
He was like the Batman Beyond version of the Creeper.
Yes, exactly. And he kept using this device, and it eventually started taking him over, so that he ended up becoming intangible without the thing. And so the episode ends with him just like falling through the earth.
That's very, yep. That's
Yes.
exactly what we were thinking about.
Yes. So thank you, Sam, and thank you, Straw Hat Prime, for pointing that out to us. And then we also had a message from Ashley Clark, because she wrote in about representation as well. And so she said she's listened to the episode. One, CJ is awesome, by the way, which we can both attest to. CJ is the best. And she said that she first saw someone on screen like herself at like 7 or 8, and it totally changed her self-perception. And she saw herself in Anne of Green Gables, which was the Canadian miniseries from the 80s.
Yeah.
And she said that her grandmother had them on VHS, and she was academically competitive, self-motivated girl who didn't look like others, who didn't look to others to decide who she wanted to be. She was just her. Very honest, dramatic, and a strong personality. And no, I love that. I love that. Like, I love also, Ashley, that you found that character like 7 or 8. I think that's a hugely transformative experience to have. And I think the younger you have it, the better. It's a huge part of what we were talking about last week, is that, we all kind of saw it a little bit later on in our lives. And, maybe seeing that at a younger age just allows you to feel more self-acceptance, which is really, really important. So, happy you found somebody.
Yeah. Have you been asking that question to other people
No.
in your life?
No, I should have.
Okay. I've been asking it to a couple people, and I've gotten some really interesting answers.
Yeah.
I asked my mom, because I think that would have been.
Oh,
what
did she have to say?
One. She said Scarlett O'Hara, just the person.
Did she elaborate?
A little bit. It was kind of like she was poised and didn't overtly use her sexuality to get what she wanted, but it also helped her get what she wanted.
Yeah. Well, also, Scarlett O'Hara is a very determined character.
Yeah.
Like, she knows what she wants and she goes for it. And I can definitely see that similarity with your mom. And then and one last little thing here. It's not a Notes from Friends, but it is a shout out to James Strecker of the Watchtower database. Congratulations to him and his wife Jessica. They're having a baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, they just put the news out in the last couple days. So little baby Strecker will be coming along in January of next year. And so very, very excited for you guys. Congratulations. So
yeah. Let us know what sidekick he's gonna grow up to be. He or she's gonna grow up to be.
Yes. Or what James, I'm very curious how many DCAU names are on your list of baby names.
I've been seeing a trend going around online of parents lining up the 3 original Pokemon for their babies to crawl up and pick, and that's gonna be their Pokemon for life.
Oh, fucking hell.
And you bet your ass, if I have a kid, they're gonna pick Squirtle, Charmander, or Bulbasaur.
God damn it. Are you gonna try and rig the system so that it goes for one of the 3?
Oh, of course they have to pick Squirtle.
Of course,
but
anything else would be absurd, Cameron.
It would be, but think about how cute it would be if as a baby they have this Squirtle, and then when they're 6 or 7, the Squirtle goes away and they're given a war turtle in the morning. The Pokemon evolves overnight, and then just when they're starting to phase out of it at 8 or 9, you give them a giant Blastoise. It's bigger than them. And this giant pillow they can just cuddle up with.
What I cannot wait for, Cameron, is for your kids to hate all the things that you love because it has been forced upon them their entire life.
I think I told you my nephew, when I saw him on Christmas Day, he came up to me and he said he's done with superheroes and he's 7. And I said, well, I'm done with you. Maybe he said Star Wars. Was it Star Wars? I'm done with Star Wars.
All I'm going to say is, given your history of interactions with 7-year-olds, maybe you shouldn't have kids. I'm just saying.
No, I'm a good uncle.
Sure. All right. Well, that does it for Notes from Friends. Why don't we move on to bat plugs? Cameron, what do you have to plug this week?
So we have one that we're both going to plug. We briefly talked about it before.
Yes.
Before we started recording. We both watched Hamilton.
Yes.
Which is now available on Disney Plus. And it is magnificent.
It really is.
We both had the luxury of seeing it performed on stage before seeing this here. And we can say it is a comparable experience to seeing it live.
Yeah, I mean, I would say actually that my experience seeing it on Disney Plus was better. Not that I had a bad experience seeing it in person; it was still really good. But I used to make the mistake of actively avoiding listening to songs from a musical prior to going and seeing it. And it's like I wanted to experience it in person. It almost felt like a spoiler of sorts to me.
Yeah.
Um, and that I did that against the recommendation of pretty much everybody, including you, who was like, "No, you should listen to Hamilton before going in." And I didn't, and I wish I had, because I think knowing the songs ahead of time definitely helps, because it gives you one a sense of the story, but also just like how the music works. And obviously, every time I listen to the songs again, I have a deeper appreciation for just how fucking incredible they are. But also, I saw it up on like towards the front of the balcony at the Pantages Theater, and
That's
like
that's about where I was. Yeah.
yeah, and like and those are pretty decent seats. But I think that Hamilton does also benefit from being able to watch it with close-ups and with some dynamic camera work, because there is so much going on and it is so beautifully orchestrated, and there's some really incredible performances, especially from the original Broadway cast. I mean, not to besmirch the cast that we saw, which was excellent, but my God, that original Broadway cast is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone that listens is like a super dedicated theater nerd, but I did talk to some of my other theater friends, and for people worried about like the camera work overshadowing the acting, it is mostly wide shots. You're pretty much
Yeah.
seeing the whole stage most of the time, and then the cuts to close up feel very organic,
Yeah.
and they're very sparsely used.
Yeah, they're sparsely used, they're well timed, and I feel like they enhance the performance rather than distract from it. Like
Yes, I agree.
I feel like the camera work did a really nice job capturing the things that you most wanted to see. But yeah, for the most part, it is still done in wides. And there's some also some cool angles they throw in there. Some unexpected angles is really good.
Yeah.
Um,
It's great. Obviously, if you haven't watched or even heard of Hamilton at this point, I don't know
I don't know
how
how.
you've survived. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you were kind of like, I don't know, I don't know who would be skeptical of seeing it. Maybe you were holding out to go see it in person at some point.
I do think like, yeah, if you have been waiting to watch it in person, watch this version.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. This, I think, stands alone well as a single piece of entertainment in terms of a filmed stage adaptation, to the point where I legitimately don't know how they could actually do a proper film adaptation, because I think this captures the essence of it so perfectly well.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very skeptical of someone being able to do a good live action adaptation. But no, it is absolutely beautiful, and also probably the only acceptable thing to do to celebrate the 4th of July this year.
Yeah. That's also a very, very good point.
In a lot of ways, which is how we celebrated this year was by watching it, and it's absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend.
Yeah, and if you are holding out listening to the soundtrack, I say this is one of two musicals that I listened to beforehand that I think enhanced the performance.
What was the other one?
Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh, okay, I could see that. Yeah, I still haven't seen Dear Evan Hansen, but
Honestly, I think the story of Dear Evan Hansen diminishes how good the songs are.
okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because I did not like the story of the musical, but the music in it, like Ben Platt's voice, is angelic.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. No, I've become a convert on this, where now I will actually like listen to the music ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd done that for Phantom of the Opera, because I was fucking confused that entire thing.
Well, but luckily you have multiple musicals, movie adaptations for that one.
Although I've never seen any of them.
Neither have I.
Yeah, as we were talking about last week, at some point I'll watch the Joel Schumacher version.
But then the other thing I want to plug really quick, because it is funny enough, it's kind of what we talked about a couple weeks ago. I started reading / listening to Guards by Terry Pratchett.
Yeah.
One book from the Discworld universe of 41 books.
Oh, it was only 41. I think you said like 60 something last time.
Yeah, I looked it up before the podcast to make sure I got the right number this time.
That's
it
far
is
more
41,
reasonable.
right? For those who don't know the Discworld verse, it's a parody of it's him kind of making fun of all the Tolkien lore and the Lovecraftian lore in this like pseudo comedic universe called Discworld, which I don't want to compare the flat earthers to like the Discworld map, because Discworld is a flat world
Yeah.
that sits on the back of a turtle
Okay.
that floats through space.
Okay.
But there's kind of 6-ish stories that you can enter into at any point in the Discworld universe. So I picked the one Guards, which is about a bunch, because we talked about security guards getting a bad rap.
Yeah.
It's about like 3 really shitty security guards in this fictional town who just like hate their job and hate doing everything.
Yeah.
And like the town they're so bad at their job, the town had to like restructure their crime to not be so criminal because no one was ever going to catch them.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's very funny so far. It's like half the story is dealing with the guards, and I'm only about halfway through, and the other half is a group of kind of Lovecraftian sorcerers trying to summon a dragon to take over the city, but they're all way too inept to actually understand how to use magic.
This all does sound very Terry Pratchett.
Yes.
Now, because you're listening to the audiobook, I presume. Is it do you know who is reading it? Is it anyone of note?
I don't think it's an old audiobook.
Okay.
And it's actually weird to listen to because there's no chapters.
Oh, it just constantly going?
It just goes.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's just a 1 10-hour listen.
Oh, interesting.
It does not say who did the audiobook.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking, given it's Terry Pratchett, it may have been someone noteworthy, like a Stephen Fry, for example.
I would love for Stephen Fry to redo it because it's the one from from like the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this one hasn't ever been re-recorded.
Oh, okay. Well, also everything just benefits from the inclusion of Stephen Fry.
It absolutely
including
does.
this very world we live in.
Nigel Planner.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. No idea.
It looks like he did pretty much all of the Terry Pratchett books.
No, okay. Well, good on him. Job security is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
35 years.
Yeah. Perfect.
What about you? What else are you watching?
So my other plug this week is a movie you and I watched on Friday with the third leg of the Burger Fan Club tripod, Shay Tully. We watched Swiss Army Man.
We did watch Swiss Army Man.
Cameron, you've brought up numerous times because, as you've acknowledged on the podcast, you worked on the social media campaign for it. So you've seen this movie a lot. You've talked about it a lot.
And now you finally got to experience it with me.
I've experienced it. I can genuinely say I was disappointed.
I did overhype it a lot.
It was a little bit... Yes, you had overhyped it a little bit. But also, what I had heard about it from beyond just you... I was hoping I would like it because it seemed like it was going to be just like weird, and I do like weird sometimes.
And it is weird.
It's weird. It's not necessarily weirder than I expected, but it wasn't about what I expected it to be about.
That's fair.
And I feel like, because I don't want to go to spoiler territory on this, I will feel like the movie has a strange relationship with its own like take on whether things are literal or not. And maybe I'm just a little bit dense, and I maybe wanted to be a little more clear in terms of like what's metaphorical and what's literal, but it had a kind of a total weird line in that regard. It's had a weird relationship with that sort of balance. But I mean, I will say it made me fall even more in love with Daniel Radcliffe, who just continues to pick the weirdest possible choices, and I love that he does that, and they generally pay off. And again, like credit to Paul Dano, who's I guess really the lead of the movie, although it's primarily a two-hander between him and Daniel Radcliffe. But it's really, really fucking bizarre. I mean, it's relatively short. It's only an hour and 40 minutes. It felt long for that, I will say.
It did.
Just because it felt a little bit meandering. I don't know. It's a movie that you couldn't tell if it suffered from too much creative interference or not enough. I'm not quite sure what happened there. But I feel like it maybe wasn't a fully unique vision from the filmmaker on it. So it's not quite an anti-plug per se. I
just to do what you want with it.
It's not necessarily a recommendation, but I don't I think it's worth seeing if you're curious about it.
Yes, if it's on your list, go ahead and watch it. If it's
Yeah.
not on your list, forget about it.
If you have 100 minutes to spare and want a weird distraction, I think it's worth seeing. Or it's worth I think it's worth having seen. I
Yes.
suppose.
Did you ever watch Horns?
I haven't. It's also on my list.
Same. It's another Radcliffe movie.
Yeah, it's an adaptation of a Joe Hill story, and I've heard good things about the Joe Hill story. So the book, I should say, not his personal story. Although his story is kind of interesting. He's Stephen King's son.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so maybe I'll check that out at some point.
Yeah, I think it's isn't it like the same story as Gone Girl?
I don't.
But he has horns.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
And I think they came out relatively close.
yeah.
So I always got the two of them confused.
Yeah. Oh, Gone Girl's so good. Both the book and the movie.
Still haven't seen it.
I prefer the book, but also like that is my favorite genre is mysteries. So I'm always going to prefer the book to the movie, pretty much in all situations in that regards.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that does it for us this week. Thank you for listening, as always. If you have recommendations for stuff for us to check out or stuff you've been watching, reading, listening to that you want to put out there, you can find us at Timm Talk Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail. You can find me at Lordifer on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, and you can find my art at Cameron.Dexter, and you can find my face at CamDexter_adventures.
Boom, boom, boom. And we'll be back next week with two episodes I'm super excited about. Out of Africa and Fallen Hero.
Yeah, getting that 1-2 punch in.
Yeah, some good crossover episodes. That should be a fun week. But until then, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. A superhero static shock.
Woot woot.
A superhero static shock.
Woot woot.